You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hi, No Filter listeners, it's Mia here, and we have a brand new Mamamia podcast that you might like to know about. It's called 456 Club, and it's for women in their 40s, 50s and 60s, helping them feel seen, heard, and just better about everything. It's very funny. It's very helpful. It's hosted by the wonderful Narelda Jacobs and Cathrine Mahoney, and we thought we'd give you a little taste of episode 1. So here it is. Enjoy. And remember to subscribe to the 456 Club wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of 456 Club is made in partnership with Priceline Pharmacy for all your beauty, health and wellness needs at great prices. Visit Priceline Pharmacy in-store or online at priceline.com.au.
Priceline, a festival of you.
Just give me something to help me sleep because I can't do anything else unless I get some sleep.
It's just going into the unknown that gets me every time.
Welcome to our very first episode of 456 Club, the show that makes women over the age of 40 feel seen, understood and, well, better about everything. My name is Narelda Jacobs. I'm a Wajak Nyunga woman, a journalist, a mother. I'm a pretty good person, I think.
I think you're a pretty good person. I'm quite happy to spend the next few months sat next to you, dear. By the way, I'm Cathrine Mahoney. I'm an author, podcast host. I'm going to have to say mother now too. I was just going to say I was a Capricorn with curly hair and a red lip, but now I'm going to have to mention the kid. I'm also a mother.
But we're so much more than that, Cathrine, as we are about to find out.
So much more. So, you might be wondering, what does 456 Club stand for? It's for women who are in their 40s, 50s and 60s. However, if you're younger or older, we'd love your ears too, wouldn't we?
Yes.
You can listen at any age.
Because it's either going to happen to you or it has happened
Or it
to you.
has happened to you.
And you're living a wonderful life.
You're living your best life. But first, a little about us. Narelda, give me 3 things that sum up where you are right now.
I am so content in life. I'm just loving... Well,
you've got a love haze going on. There's a love glow.
But I'm also loving myself. Mm-hmm. I'm loving myself at the moment. Are you allowed to say that?
Yeah, it's called self-love.
Okay, well, that's what I'm...
self-touching, it's just self-love, general love,
all right.
full love.
I'm also in a new relationship. Like, how new is new?
Ooh, that's deep.
Couple of months.
Oh, no, that's good. That's still the bubble. Love it.
I am in a new relationship with someone that I love very much. So that's really exciting. I have butterflies.
I love love. So this is wonderful.
I'm in a love bubble at the moment. And I'm very interested in all the twists and turns of the Voice to Parliament and really just a campaign for yes. So that's what my life is leading up into the referendum.
I'm just really, I don't know, I'm just feeling good about life. Yes. Hitting my late 40s and feeling good. Yeah. What else? About to write my second book. So that's kind of percolating. And I'm also writing my first screenplay after being to LA. And so I'm excited about that. I've got no idea what I'm doing. It could be a long time before anything happens. But that's exciting.
Huge.
I know. And that's part of me loving being in my late 40s and feeling very much like this is part 2 for me. And I'm excited. I'm going to have to quote Helen Mirren, who is just one of my all-time faves, because I love this quote. She said, your 40s are good, 50s are great, 60s are fab, and 70s are fucking fabulous.
Oh, we love Helen, the dame.
And she wears a red lip and she's 77 and I just adore her. Also, we're obviously wearing the red lip. Now, 10 or 20 years ago, for a lot of women, joining this club meant that they became blurry to the world, maybe even completely invisible. But sod that. We don't think that, do we, Narelda?
No, not at all.
And it's not just us saying it. You might have noticed that this year's acting Oscar winners, for example, had a very grown-up vibe. Here's Best Actress winner Michelle Yeoh.
This is proof dreams do come true. And ladies, don't let anybody tell you you are ever past your prime. Never give up.
And that's why we're here, celebrating midlife. while having a laugh and working out what the fuck is happening to us all along the way.
Oh my God, Cathrine, there's so much happening to
I
us.
know, hair where there shouldn't be hair, no hair where I'd like hair. I mean, where do we start?
Over the next 8 episodes, we will be covering a huge range of topics from sex to beauty to vanity to dating again and managing growing kids and ageing parents. We'll be vulnerable and sharing, but also, because facts matter, we'll be bringing in experts and women with bloody great stories to guide us through these much maligned years to make sure you're armed with all the information you need for this, shall we say, chapter of your life.
Menopause is hell.
It is.
Jimmy.
Is it really?
Menopause is a dark hole. Okay, that's what menopause is, and that's where I'm at right now.
Oh.
So I either will love my husband today or kill him today.
Oh, no.
They ask you, is your vagina dry? And I thought to myself, it doesn't matter. If you have hair coming out of your ears and nose and a mustache and a beard and you're shrinking, nobody's coming near your vagina.
The menopause comes, the fucking menopause comes, and it is the most wonderful fucking thing in the world. And yes, your entire pelvic floor crumbles and you get fucking hot and no one cares. But then you're free.
Coming up, we're speaking to Dr. Linda Deer, a menopause expert. And we'll also hear from our guest this episode and good friend, Ali Dado, who's written a book about her perimenopausal experience. I wanted to ask you, Narelda, you're in your late 40s, or are we saying mid-40s?
Late 40s. Is 47 mid-40s?
Look, I think I love, my numbers are 4 and 7, so you've got like a great age going on.
Oh.
So yeah, let's just say you're in your 40s.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
40s.
me too, 48.
Yeah.
How's it going for you so far? Are you enjoying being in 40s?
Am I enjoying it? I'm loving being in my 40s.
She's doing that.
Am I? Because you come into your power.
It's the best, isn't it?
It is so great. Good. Yeah, but talking about that menopause word, my period stopped in mid-2020, so 2.5 years ago.
COVID lockdown, were you worried you wouldn't get any tampons?
Well, I actually did think that it was stress-related.
Oh, it is stressful.
Because it was the pandemic. I'd moved interstate, setting up a new life, and then BLM also happened. So I was having huge conversations at work, on air, putting it out there in the public. You know, I was saying things that weren't really being kind of said about making comparisons from what was going on in America. You know, everyone here was saying, well, good thing we live in Australia. And it was like, I had to be that voice amongst a whole heap of other people. But on mainstream morning TV, not so much. It was happening. So to be that person to say, really, because this is the Australia that I know that we live in, you know, so it was having those conversations that it was very stressful. And I kind of thought it was stress related, you know, because there wasn't a lot of warning. I had irregular periods. And they just kind of would last for a couple of days and then they'd start up again the next week. And I was like, oh, this is strange. But I thought it was stress. And it wasn't until they just didn't come back. And I was like, oh, maybe this is actually menopause. Is this menopause?
Did you miss them? Like they're one of those things that you kind of desperately want as a young girl, isn't it, your period? Because that's like a milestone. And then most of the time I had them, I didn't like them. But did you miss them when they're gone? Is there a bit of like,
you get contemplative. You kind of are like, oh.
That's it.
That means even if I wanted to have children,
the whole baby piece.
I'm not producing eggs anymore, and I've had a child. I've done the whole family, but you do kind of go inward a little bit.
I bet you do.
Yeah, but then I was like, woohoo! I don't have to.
I can wear white trousers anytime.
That lasted 2 seconds.
Oh, I'm really going to miss the pain, the angst, the PMT and the chocolate eating.
Yeah.
Oh, no, gone. See you later.
Yeah.
Moved on.
So anyway, what about you?
I haven't hit it yet. I thought I had. I mean, look, I moved to Brisbane in 2000 from freezing London and I thought I was perimenopausal then. I've never sweated so much and I feel like I've spent the last 20 odd years still hot and bothered. I did think I had gone through it because I was having crazy heavy periods. I thought, you know, this is the beginning of the end. Whenever I shared it with girlfriends who are a bit older, they were like, oh, it's peri, you know, crazy heavy periods and then this, that and the other. And then I kind of did that for 12 months and then I ended up going to the real doctor, not my friends. And I had to have some tests and some scans and I had fibroids, which I had to have kind of removed and hence they were the heavy periods. So now I have no periods because I had an ablation, but apparently I'm not peri. So my poor son just has to guess. He's like, you're a bit angry or you're crying. Is it your period?
And
he said, when are you going to go through menopause? And I was like, I don't know yet, Lou.
There are so many women that would relate to that because we just put up with things, don't we?
We do.
Things that we put up with are actually medical that can be treated.
Exactly. And this is where I think, as a hypochondriac, I am ashamed that it took me, 12 months to take that to the doctors. I think we're funny around anything to do with your front or back bum, aren't we? If anything goes on down there, I'm like, I'll just push through.
I wish I knew about hot flashes, because it would get you...
Have you had them? Or
yes.
Or have you totally missed that?
No, I did get flashes all the time and I still get them every now and then. And I think they are a result of stress now, when I have them now, because I'll sit in the makeup chair in the morning for Studio 10 and I'll be reading through my notes and running through, what I might say for chats on the show and things. And all of a sudden I'll just feel cold air on me and the makeup artist has very thoughtfully got the hairdryer out and put it on cold and it's just blowing me. It's just blowing me because I can just feel the heat radiating. And, but there was a part of me that was like, I've been going through this for 2.5 years. You're only just getting the hairdryer out now.
What happened before? Have you had one on TV?
Well, yes, and fortunately
so
we have
paper.
What's it
actually feel like?
We have paper.
Full body?
Oh, full body, yeah. It feel like my face is burning and I do kind of get
sweaty.
Moist.
I was like, moist. It's like a good chocolate cake. Some things are meant to be moist. Us, not so much.
But at night as well, I was just burning up at night and just could not be touched. Like you just can't be touched at night. Yeah. So I do relate to that. When women say that, I relate to that.
Hot.
It was the time.
Did you ever take anything for it?
No, I never took.
Are we going to ask Dr. Dear this?
That's what I would have liked to have known. Could I have taken anything for hot flashes in the night to make me sleep? So obviously, Kath, I've been through menopause.
Show off.
You're not sure whether you're a peri or not?
No, still not there. Still not there. Still just hot to trot, sadly.
So we really wanted to speak to someone who is going through it. And Ali Dado came to both of our minds. How long have you known Ali?
Oh, about maybe a year and a half now. I adore her.
How long have you known of Ali?
Oh, probably maybe for a few years before that. I worked at the network, so obviously I had seen Cam, her husband, but I am plague's the wrong word. I'm surrounded by friends who get all gaga when I mention her name.
Me too.
Yes.
People too.
Love her. It all goes back to bedroom walls and posters.
Yes. Well,
you one of them?
Yes, I was one of them. In the Dolly days, Ali Bray, as a 16-year-old buying Dolly magazines, she was on the cover of all the magazines. Anyway, so that was in the mid-'80s, and Ali Dado's career journey has travelled through roles in education, charities, podcasting and writing, and here she is now with us, Ali!
Hello. I have to share this story. I posted a photo of Ali the other day on my Instagram and someone who follows me reached out and said, I used to love Ali when she was in Dolly and I bleached my hair on my legs because she didn't shave it. And that same day, Ali had messaged me to say, I've just been waxed. I've just had my legs waxed. I'll be late. And I was like, do I crush this person's bleached blonde leg hair Ali sort of memories or not? But I didn't.
Yeah, well, 53 now, the leg hair is definitely not blonde. It's very, very dark and thick.
Oh, it's like a forest, is it? Cam loves running his fingers through your legs.
Oh, absolutely. His fingers get lost, actually. So, yeah.
Now, Ali, you sprung to both of our minds because apart from being just an incredible human that are friends with the both of us, you've written a first book called Queen Menopause and put yourself on all the radar of women everywhere for being an expert about menopause. Is that how you would describe yourself now?
Look, I definitely wouldn't say I'm an expert on menopause because that would be a gynecologist's job, but I'm certainly an expert on my menopause and becoming a bit of an expert on talking to women who have gone through it, are going through it, and need to know a bit more information about it. And, the book Queen Menopause, it's funny how people take it because some people, of course, go, you are the queen of menopause. I'm like, no. It's you're the queen of your own menopause.
Right. Let's get down and dirty, Mrs. What were your first menopause symptoms?
That started with just a change in my cycle. And I'd always been super regular. And then it became every 2 weeks, sometimes every week, miss a few months. And then it became extremely heavy. And they call that flooding, which is a terrible term, but it makes a lot of sense, the amount of blood that you are actually expelling from your body. That's a super common one. And it's often actually one of the ones that is most distressing for women, because you can imagine you're in the boardroom, you're at work somewhere, you're picking up the kids from work, whatever you're doing, and all of a sudden, like, you know, heavy pads, heavy tampons, and you're going through them every half hour. So that was my first symptom. And then I experienced my first hot flush, and I knew something was afoot once that started happening.
So, Ali, I always joke that I've been having hot flushes since I moved from London to Brisbane without air conditioning. I don't think I've technically had one yet. So what is a hot flush like? Describe it for people who haven't had one yet either, who are listening.
You've had some, Narelda, right?
Yes. And on occasion, I still get them.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm post, but every now and again, not many, and much to a much lesser way, I get them now. Look, they are the best way I can describe it. It is just an all-encompassing internal combustion of heat that is like nothing I had ever felt before. It's not a fever. It's not just like, oh, it's a bit hot in the room. It's just this huge wave of heat that for me would often come with a massive adrenaline hit as well. So particularly in the middle of the night, which are always the worst ones, the night hot flushes, I would be wide awake and often very anxious and panicking at the same time. So it was like this emotional component that went with the hot flush as well. But they are like nothing else I've ever experienced.
And it's when you're not doing anything. I think that's when you notice it the most. I mean, you might have them throughout the day and not notice it because you're busy or you're running around from A to B or, you know, very active. But it's when you're still and you break out in a sweat because you're so hot and there is no relief. And for me, Ali, I don't know if you find this, but it's sometimes triggered by a thought of something, like a stressful thought or a stress in some way.
Interesting. I hadn't put that together, but I know certain things brought them on. If I had a glass of red wine that night, I noticed I was always more likely to have more hot flushes. Spicy foods often brought them on.
But what's causing the stress is that the menopause.
Exactly. So
that's right. It's chicken and egg. So it goes round and round and round. Yeah.
Did you get into a rhythm of learning how to sort of self-soothe? Because, I mean, I hate waking up in the middle of the night and then you have the racing brain, you know, and if you've got a hot flush on top of that, did you have a way to calm yourself down?
I was looking for all sorts of ways. One of the ways that I did find was journaling at night. I had my journal beside the bed and that just helped me do something. I would just sometimes get up, have a cold drink of water. I would try to find something that felt really good for me to do. I would make sure I didn't go on my phone because that just made it worse. I had meditation books beside the bed as well. So I'd attempt to do some meditation or writing or reading a lovely book, but anything that could soothe me. I had a spray bottle beside the bed. I was like bathed in lavender oil, like everywhere was lavender oil. I was drinking it. I was eating it. It was in my tea. I was slathered in it.
I'm getting a picture of what's on your bedside table.
I know. It's a Bunnings trestle table by the sounds of it. It's not just a little one. All of the stuff.
Yeah, it's got a drawer. It's got 2 shelves. Tools. And there's a floor underneath as well.
What will Cameron do as you're reaching for the spray bottle, for the lavender oil, for the journal?
Well, he's an excellent sleeper, number one. So he can wake up and go back to sleep in the blink of an eye. But there was often times that I just had to be in a different bed anyway, because if he was snoring, I mean, anything woke me up. So like a leaf rustling across the ground, 200 meters from the house, I'd be like, what's that? What's happening? So as soon as he started snoring in just the smallest amount, I was awake. So we had a lot of separate bedrooms during that time. I'd go to the couch or we had a little single bed at the time. So yeah, I was doing anything I possibly could because sleep was just so elusive. And
that wears you down, doesn't it? It's sort of back to the up through the night with the baby, sleepless nights.
It's awful. It's the cornerstone for your health. And if you don't have your sleep, it makes everything harder, as I'm sure you both know. And of course, everything you read is like, yes, the best way you can help this is get your sleep. I'm like, I know that, but it's so hard to get.
And then because of the lack of sleep and just the discomfort, were things irritating you more
Oh, Narelda. Oh. That is the understatement of the year. Everything was irritating. Unfortunately, most of it was Cameron. So, yeah, like everything. And everything was just heightened. Emotionally, I was heightened. I was sadder. I was more sensitive. I was more anxious. I was more angry. I was quick to sort of snap at things and couldn't find a lot of joy. That was the weird thing. I'd sort of mostly been a fairly optimistic person through my life, and I lost all optimism. At my lowest, I couldn't find anything to be happy about. And that was scary because I'd never been sort of to that depths of darkness before. So it was very, very challenging. By far, that was the hardest part of the perimenopause, was the mental load. Like, I just had no tools for it and was so surprised by it as well. So, and I think when you're in that dark place, it's very hard to trust yourself and trust your own mind and know what the best thing to do is. So that was super, super challenging.
Did you reach out to a health practitioner at that point?
I did end up going to a therapist, which was definitely helpful. That was also at the point where I was writing the book, but I still wasn't understanding menopause to its fullest way. And I just felt so lonely in it because I thought that I was going crazy. There was something wrong with me, and who was I going to talk to about it? So I think that was also a huge impetus to continue to write the book, because I felt like it was such a solitary experience, where really it's not, because every woman goes through it. It's just to what levels we go through it.
Can I ask about intimacy and being touched and hugged, all of it? Like, did that all go out the window? I can only sort of, I guess, say when I've got PMT, I would rather chop people's hands off than sort of, have any sort of intimacy moments. How is it for you?
Yeah, that took a beating for sure. That really was not something libido was absolutely...
I know, does it go? Like, what happens? Is it flatline? Oh my God, it's like a season of ER. Where's the libido? Get the paddles on it.
It was a long lost treasure. I didn't know where that one went. And it seemed to happen quite quickly as well. My poor husband, who likes to fix things, as most men do, was trying to sort of, what can I do? What can I do?
Rub. What do you need?
I'm too hot for a hug. Don't touch me. So, yeah, it takes a real toll on relations, or it can. I mean, it did for us until we sought some help. We went to a couples therapist, and we sort of got on board with understanding what was happening and made the choice to sort of really look at menopause as something that we could tackle together. And once we were on the same team, and we could look at menopause and going, okay, what can we do in order to make this better for both of us? Then, enjoying the hand holding and going for a long walk and just sitting and having intimate conversations became really, really heightened and really important. And so there was a lot of patience and love around that, which really helped.
Communication's key. What about with the kids? Do they need to know that that's what you're going through?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just, it doesn't have to be a huge explanation. I just sort of said, yep, I'm not only am I writing a book on menopause, I'm in menopause. If I seem really down or cranky, it's got nothing to do with you. And once they know it's got nothing to do with them, they're free to roam about the cabin, with no worries.
Like, we're so scared to say that, or we don't even know that we're in it to say it. But once you say that, it's not you, it's me.
Yes, basically.
Yeah. But there are lots of variations of saying that can communicate it in a way that seems genuine. It's not like I'm trying to brush you off.
Is it and menopause again, Mum? Yes, it's menopause again, Mum. Yes,
that's right.
Don't turn the telly on and go to bed.
And don't touch
me. Do the dishwasher. No, don't touch me. All of the above.
Yeah. And don't speak to me. Yeah.
Don't look at me.
A lot of women sort of my age remember their mums going through something. They never knew what it was. They just thought they couldn't understand why mum would just sort of close the door and go off in a huff and seemed a bit irrational. But, I think that's a really good thing to know for our kids, especially for our girls as well. Our fellas as well, if you're going to be with a woman later in life. But if you've got a little bit of an understanding of menopause as a teen or a kid, it might just help you in the future as well.
How good is life going to be for them? God.
Yeah.
They're ready to roll with all of the information.
Yeah. Well, Ali's both of our friends.
Oh, I know. So we're
We're
even
so
more
lucky.
in love with her.
We're so lucky. But also just to hear her talk about the things that I have experienced.
Yes. That I'm going to experience.
And that I haven't really heard anyone articulate in such a way that is relatable. So relatable.
I know. And actually beautiful and inspiring and owning it, because the reality is it's something I've got to go through. You're through, almost through, whatever. Now I'm going to buy a lot of lavender oil.
Are you scared that you might be irritated and
I think is that my go-to?
by people? Are you okay hearing all of this?
No, I did worry about the lack of joy. Like I'm a really happy sausage.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a bit like, am I just going to be really sad sausage for a long time? I hope not. I'm going to drink lavender oil. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to chug it back.
But what I did love about what Ali said was finding things and people irritating.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really important, and to be able to kind of know that actually it's what you're going through just at the moment. It's not forever. It's not forever.
And sharing it,
It's going to pass.
communication,
Yeah, that's
isn't
really
it? Being able
important.
to talk to people around you. We know how confusing the menopause journey can be. How do you know where to get help and who you can trust? Well, the journey to wellness doesn't end with your doctor. Your pharmacist can also play a big role in your peri and menopause journey. We're joined by a Priceline pharmacist. Can you tell us what are some of the most common concerns you hear when it comes to menopause?
From the common ones like hot flushes, changes in mood and insomnia, to the lesser known like vaginal dryness, light bladder leakage and difficulty concentrating.
Yes, hard relate on most of those.
When it comes to handling menopause symptoms, your local Priceline pharmacist can form an important part of that journey. They can offer tailored, expert advice to suit your needs.
For all your health, beauty and wellness needs, visit Priceline Pharmacy in-store or online at priceline.com.au. Always consult a medical practitioner with any health concerns.
Visit a Priceline pharmacy to chat to a Priceline pharmacist today.
While advice from friends and family and even us is great, if
we call it advice,
we do say so ourselves. There's no one better to chat through all of your questions than your doctor. So to chat through all things peri and menopause, welcome to the show, Dr. Linda Deer.
One of us thinks we're halfway through it. I'm not there yet. So what symptoms am I looking for, and when am I going to near menopause?
Yeah, so at a certain point, our ovaries decide to slow down. And they go through this little process. They don't usually stop overnight. They have like a second puberty, if you like, which is the winding down bit. And that can be sometimes even more turbulent than the first puberty and can be quite subtle. And it can often start earlier than most women think. Everybody feels too young for perimenopause, let's put it like that. But it is not the same as menopause. It is the phase before it, the kind of winding down bit. And that can actually start in your late 30s, because that's when we know the ovaries and their egg supply does start to change from 35 onwards. So if the ovaries aren't making as many eggs, they're also not making as many hormones. And without those hormones doing their normal thing, women can feel that in lots of different ways. And actually the first symptoms a woman gets may be very subtle and nobody's thinking about her ovaries because she's just tired, or she's very depressed, or she's very anxious, or she can't sleep, or she gets sore knees or a sore hip. And then you may still be having periods that are quite regular. So your hormones may be okay to make periods happen. They're just not quite good with everything else they're supposed to do in our bodies and brains. And it's not until your periods finally have stopped for a whole year that we call you, that was your menopause moment 1 year ago, and now you're postmenopause. You're on the other side. You've come through your second puberty and your ovaries have officially retired.
Wow. So, Cathrine, you are perimenopausal.
Potentially. We haven't had it confirmed.
Potentially.
But soon. I do have a sore knee and hip, so possibly.
There we go. Hang on. Oh.
And my period stopped 2.5 years ago. So I've had menopause. I am what stage am I at
Yes, you
now?
would be called postmenopausal. And it's really important that women who've gone a whole year without a period, and look, the average age when that happens, your menopause moment, it can happen any age from 45 to 55, and we consider that normal. The average age, most women get somewhere in the middle, and the average age to stop your period is 50, 51. Once you've gone that whole year, you shouldn't really have any more periods. And if you do, if you have a sneaky one suddenly, more than a year after that, doctors like to know about that. We call that a postmenopausal bleed, and we like to know about it because we tend to scan women and just make sure everything's okay, which it normally is. Because often in perimenopause, women go long periods without one. It might not be a whole year yet, but they think, oh, it's all slowing down. And then they go through menopause, they go a whole year, 2 years, they might have a little bleed and they think, oh, well, this is what it did a few years ago. It's, probably nothing, which it probably is nothing. But we do call that something different. So after a year of no bleeding, you're now classed as postmenopausal, and any other sneaky periods a doctor should know about.
I'm curious to know, Dr.
Dear.
Dr. Dear. Dr. Dear, are there any other factors that could bring on menopause earlier than the average age, like, environmental factors or stress?
We don't think stress brings it on as far as we know, but look, stress is such a sneaky beast. I don't think we realise all the things it can probably do. Most of what stress does is bad, but there's no evidence it causes an early menopause. But you can go through menopause before the average age. If you're 40 to 45 when you have your last ever period, we call that early menopause, but we don't worry too much about that one, to be honest. But if you're under 40 and your periods stop, which can happen sometimes for no apparent reason, that is called premature ovarian insufficiency, which does mean you're more at risk of certain health problems because your body is not ready to be without those hormones. And the other big way women can end up going through it sooner is if they have surgery to remove their ovaries. So that's called surgical menopause. And that's a very abrupt, as you can imagine, it's menopause immediately. And they have much more severe symptoms. And they, more than anyone, actually really do need those hormones replaced. And other people can go through it because of chemo or radiotherapy, things that damage their ovaries. So they've not been removed, but they're not working anymore. So there are different ways women get to this phase of life, and it's not the same for everybody.
Is it genetic? My mum's here from the UK at the moment, so I asked her when she went through menopause, and she said she started about 52. Should I look to my mum and see that as a sort of a path I might follow, or is it not connected?
Often it can be similar, yes. It's not silly to do that, to ask your mums, your older sisters, get a feel for, when they went through it and how theirs was. But equally, it can all be so different in different women. A bit like, your pregnancy and birth stories can all be completely different, and periods can be completely different for different women, even if they're related. It's not silly to get some info from the women older than us anyway, because it gives us an indication of what's coming up, and you get prepared then for what might happen. But you've also got to be prepared for your version to be completely bloody different.
So if there's an early menopause, there's a late menopause.
Good question.
It's a good question. She's good, this one. She's good, isn't
she? She could be on telly, that one.
Well, I am a journalist.
She's a professional. She knows what she's doing.
She is. I'm not. There's a doctor and a professional in the house. Not sure why I got a chair.
But you're right. Some women, it seems like their periods just don't want to bloody stop, and I've had lots of patients like that, and they're almost like, can you just make them bloody stop? They're sort of in their late 50s and they're still having perfectly regular periods. So although this average age is 45 to 55, the female body has not read the textbook. She doesn't, it doesn't care. And even some women, even after their periods stop, they still get symptoms like they're going to get one. So even like much later in life, women say, I still get sore boobs every month, or I hate my husband every month, or whatever. It's like something's still going on somewhere. although the periods stop.
Speaking of hormones, menopausal hormone therapy, we hear mixed things about it. Is it something to be considered?
So I think it should be on the table of options for women to choose from. And for the last 20 years, it's been off the table. It's been locked away in the breast cancer box, basically. And so women have been presented with lots of other things that can help them with their symptoms, whatever symptoms they may be. And breast cancer, there was a big study 20 years ago, which is when it got locked away, the WHI trial, which was in America, massive randomized controlled trial, really expensive study, looked at lots and lots of women. And they came out and dramatically announced, we found an increased risk of breast cancer with HRT and everybody should stop using it. So everybody did. But that data that they actually reported on, now when people have looked at it, and even back then people looked at it and said, hang on a minute, it's not that bad. But it was too late. Everyone had heard the bad news and assumed it was as true as they said. So the increased risk that they found of breast cancer was so small, it wasn't statistically significant, which normally means a study says we didn't find any significant differences between the two groups. But they didn't say that. It was smaller than the risk of getting breast cancer from being overweight. And it was smaller than the risk of getting breast cancer from drinking 2 or more alcoholic drinks a day. So in terms of how risky it was for breast cancer, it was actually very small. And now we use body identical hormones. So we are imitating nature as best as we can, which means in the body, they attach to all the right receptors and the body kind of accepts them more. And it's as natural as we can imitate it, which has been shown to have an even lower risk of breast cancer attached to it. And the other thing that study didn't tell us is that the women who were under 60, which is when we mostly give HRT to, because that study was looking at older women, it's another problem with it. When they took all the women over 60 out of the data analysis, the women under 60 on HRT lived longer than the women not on HRT. So they were less likely to die from everything, including breast cancer. They had less heart disease, less diabetes, less bowel cancer, a whole lot less osteoporosis and less fractures. And then when you think about the fact that for the symptoms of menopause, it is quite hard to find anything that works quite as well as HRT for lots of women. Not all women, but for lots of women. Then you've got all the benefits of the symptom improvement there as well. Less brain fog, less body pain, sleeping better, better mood. So on balance, what we should be saying to women now is certainly if you're under 60, the benefits of HRT massively outweigh any risks, but it's still up to each woman to decide whether they do or don't want to take it. And there are other things out there they can try as well.
So when you are peri, you don't know that you're peri. You just kind of think, oh, these are factors of life. I'm having a hard time at work, or you explain the symptoms away. Like, I can't sleep. I must be anxious about something or whatever. How do we know that there's something that can help us when we don't even know that we're going through it?
It is a bit of a messy time, isn't it? And you're right. There's so many other things, so much noise going on. And we can't say stress doesn't affect us. It does. And our lives are often quite busy and hectic and we're being pulled in all directions. And you just think, well, no wonder I'm not sleeping. I'm too bloody busy. We've got to look at our lifestyle. We do, and sometimes us women are guilty of not saying no enough, and maybe it's a bit of a lesson in that to try and de-stress. What we often say when we talk to women is we say, how much is this and this symptom bothering you? We talk about if it's bothering you a lot, if it's interfering with your life, either your mental health or your job or your relationship, and nothing else seems to be helping, and it is interfering with your life, then you should go and talk to a doctor or someone for some support about, do you want to actually do anything more about it? And look, for some women, it might be psychotherapy, counselling, if it's more mental health stuff. But a lot of the research also shows that we should be giving people HRT sooner for mental health symptoms, because there's lots of women who are on that roundabout of therapy and antidepressants. And now we're seeing that actually what they benefit more from is to get their hormones kind of more controlled, and then their heads come right. Hormones mess with our heads, there's no doubt. But when you draw the line as to when it's bad enough is really hard. Everyone's unique, which is part of why it's so tricky to know when do you need help. And there's obviously that pressure that it's natural and you should just get on with it. And so it is a woolly kind of area for women to make a decision about, no, this is bothering me and I want someone to help me.
We hear about the pretty common symptoms all the time. Hot flushes, dry vagina, mood swings. But what is the weirdest or most unlikely symptom menopause can cause?
Similar to the itchy one, there's the feeling of ants on your skin. And that can be a common symptom in perimenopause and menopause, and it drives women insane. And in the past, women have been diagnosed as having psychosis, because it's also a hallucination that people get with psychosis and diseases. But it's also a symptom in menopause because estrogen affects nerve cells. There are estrogen receptors on nerve cells. So you can get a lot of weird nerve-related symptoms, like this ants crawling and people think there's something on them, or tingling, numbness. So they're a bit weird. And people don't think about ovaries, you know, when a woman says, oh, I feel like ants are crawling all over me. So people see neurologists quite a lot. Women go to a neurologist and, you know, to look at their nerve system, and often everything's fine. And it's hormone related weird stuff.
How long does dryness last? Once your vagina dries, is it always dry?
About vaginas.
Let's do this.
Because women's vaginas have been suffering long enough. There is no need for it. Doctors have something that women can use that is probably one of the best kept secrets in medicine. In England, you can get this without a prescription. You don't even need a doctor anymore, which I think is wonderful. And that is vaginal estrogen, right?
That's what I got today. My
Did you get some
prescription's for
vaginal?
that.
It is a wonderful, wonderful invention. And unlike HRT, which again is not the dangerous drug we all thought it was anyway, but people think, oh, vaginal estrogen, that's HRT as well. It's not. It's not HRT because you don't absorb it throughout your whole body. It just basically talks to your vagina and your bladder and your pelvic floor. So it can...
Because I'm weeing all the time.
The weeing problem.
I always need to wee. I mean, I drink 2 litres of water as well, but I feel like I'm the wee queen.
You need to always be near a toilet.
So our bladders listen to it, and it comes in a cream.
So
you can get a pessary as well if you don't want to do a messy cream thing.
Yeah, what were you thinking on the pessary? Because the chemist wasn't sure. The chemist was like, some people like the pessary, other people just,
it's personal
whoop it up.
choice, really. If you've got dryness around the outside, now we're not talking about groin, we're in the vulva area here, in the clitoris.
We're near
the vagina. You know, dryness around there, cream's good because obviously you can put a bit on the outside as well as the inside. Whereas with the pessary, you've just got to lash that thing in. So you can't put some soothing and replenishing estrogen on the outside. So some people like the cream for
I'm
that.
good on the outside. It's just, right.
Well, you might be better with a pessary might be a bit more convenient and less mess, and just up it's in.
We're not talking about lube here, are we?
No, but lube.
Okay, I just wanted to clear that up.
But we're all right with lube, aren't we? Dr.
We
Dia,
are fine
we like
with lube. I'm pro lube. And yeah, lube can be used with vaginal estrogen as well. You can use that vaginal estrogen twice a week to just keep things happy. And then, action stations, you've got the lube there as well. But a lot of women need less lube when they start using vaginal estrogen because the equipment is just better and it's ready to go.
When you're young and you start to get, all excited, it used to be like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Like if this boy does anything with me, I'm like damp in the pants.
Yeah.
And that's embarrassing when, you're just hitting, you're like whatever age that is. And then now being on the more of the desert side, it's also embarrassing, isn't it?
It is.
Not anymore.
But we can do, like I say, no vagina should be dry. No vagina should be unhappy. There are things we've got for that. And it's never too late to start it. I've given it to women in their 70s. One of my patients, I gave it to her and she brought me a Christmas present that year. She said, that cream is bloody amazing. I've told all my daughters about it. It has changed my life.
I'm so excited to get home and
You're
slap
gonna
it
have
up.
fun with that,
I'm going to have a lot of fun
you?
tonight. Before we let you go, while you're not doing this and all the other amazing things that you're doing, you're quite busy, aren't you? You're doing your survey in New Zealand, Australia.
Yes, so I've got a survey out there which is already running in New Zealand, and we got over 4,000 women to fill it in. And it asks about menopause symptoms, menopause treatments people have tried, how their symptoms affected them at work or in their relationships and their sex life, and how it's affected their mental health. So it's quite a big survey to get lots of information about women's experience of menopause and perimenopause. And I've released it in Australia now. You don't have to give an email. You can do it all anonymously. And it's at menosurvey.com. So you can make yourself a cup of tea, settle down, and just tell your story about what your peri and menopause has been like for you.
Kath, how good was Dr. Linda Deer?
I know, and not just her name. I mean, everything she said was fantastic.
I would love to walk into a clinic and there is Dr. Deer to hold your hand through menopause.
I know. And I am so excited to go home now and try my dry vagina cream. It's a thing. It's definitely a thing.
And to know that it's just normal.
I know.
There's nothing wrong.
It's okay. Ladies, it might happen to you listening. What else was your takeaway?
I loved just normalising all the things that you think are strange, that you feel that there's ants crawling on you.
I know, that's really scary.
Yeah, that is.
That's
but
scary.
to think that, you know, if you have a sensation, tingly sensation or any of the other things that
And the HRT, it was interesting to hear her talk about the findings and how we've all focused in on the findings that may or may not, you know, we need to go on our own journey with that sort of stuff. But I don't know, it's just, it brings like Google together, doesn't it? When you can actually talk to a living menopause doctor specialist. It's like brilliant.
Well, after hearing from Ellie, I mean, my recommendation is to read Queen Menopause.
Yes, it's actually fabulous. And I got the new audiobook because she does the audiobook, so you can hear her voice.
Yes.
It's lovely. My recommendation is, don't presume you know what's going on with your body. Bang down your doctor's door. I wish I had way long before. And then I found out it was fibroids and it wasn't flooding and it wasn't peri and it wasn't all the things that my friends or Google had told me. So yeah, bang your doctor's door down.
Join us next week when we talk all things sex.
Pardon?
Well, I'm a newsreader. I don't usually talk about my sex life. Do I have to talk about my own sex life? No. I'm not going to
talk about a friend's sex life.
Okay, all right, a friend. From reviving a sexless marriage to not wanting to do it anymore, to the best lubes on the market.
Can you just say that again?
To the best lubes. There are ones that heat up.
There are ones that glow in the dark.
Oh, there's ones
Brilliant.
that taste like chocolate.
And there are ones that don't taste like chocolate. I've tried them all. Gosh, next week should be a spicy one. And note to self, try to get some action in before next week's episode.
Yeah, we want you to talk about
I know,
something.
need to have something to talk about.
The producers of the 456 Club are Talissa Bazaz and Eliza Ratliff.
If you've loved the show, make sure you rate and review and share it with your friends who you think would benefit.
We know that everybody's experience in their 40s, 50s and 60s looks and feels different. So we want to hear from you. Head to the show notes and complete a short survey. And to thank you for your time, you could win a $50 voucher.
For more on Peri and the most up-to-date information delivered straight to your inbox, you can sign up to our Very Peri newsletter for free by following the link in the show notes. And we'll speak to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
This episode of 456 Club was made in partnership with Priceline Pharmacy. For expert advice on all your beauty, health and wellness needs, visit Priceline Pharmacy in-store or online at priceline.com.au.